I gotta get something off my chest, man. Fire Emblem Three Houses looks ugly. Let me preface this. I consider myself a fan of Fire Emblem as a franchise, particularly the gameplay, the characters, the animations, sometimes the story. Every single game has been an immersive, enjoyable experience. So, with Three Houses around the corner, meaning more Fire Emblem for me to enjoy, why am I not particularly excited about it? Because it looks so goddamn ugly! Like, look at this, dude, what is this? So because it's been bothering me so much, I'm going to break down exactly what I don't like about it, and maybe you'll agree. Another disclaimer before we start, this is not about gameplay or plot. I'm sure I'll enjoy that part of it enough, hopefully. This is entirely about the aesthetics of the game. So, let's begin. I'm going to start with the environments, because I think it's more of a subtle problem than a really glaring one. However, I'd argue environments are pretty damn important, especially in a Fire Emblem game. As a tactical RPG with a massive battlefield, terrain plays a pretty integral role in gameplay. It's the context of your battles, and a cool or well-crafted environment can really make memorable levels, and overall just adds to the immersion of the combat itself. But before I shit on this game's environment design, I'll point out the things I like so far. The mountainside monastery is a pretty cool concept, especially for what I imagine the hub world will be. And most of the interior shots of this game look pretty good. They give me a kinda Hogwartsy vibe, but I fuck with that, so it's all good. Finally, some of the forest areas look nice as well, and have some nice details like stone ruins and stuff like that. Unfortunately, that's all I can really say. The problem is that a lot of these areas just look empty, and the textures are particularly bad and stretched out in some places. I get that some of these examples are screenshots and they look slightly better in motion, but still, why does this game barely even match up to the environments in the 3DS games? And the 3DS is a lot more limited in hardware. These are just clips from trailers and screenshots that have been posted on the website and all that stuff, but again, if you're gonna advertise a game, wouldn't you want to use some of your most jaw-dropping environments? At best they look pretty good, but at worst they look really bad, or just boring. I just hope that these are the rare examples and that they look pretty good for the majority of the game, but, you know, from what I see so far, not so hopeful. Fire Emblem has come a long way in terms of animation. From the stiff animations in the first games, to mastering the art of 2D sprite work in the Game Boy era, to reinventing itself in 3D. Hell, even the mobile game has some sick animations of its own. To me, animations play a huge role in game feel, making the game satisfying to play. Given the sheer amount of combat that goes on in these games, having sweet combat visuals are almost necessary given how often you'll be seeing them. One of my favorite things in the new Fire Emblem games is when you get that critical strike activation, you know shit's about to go down.
You deserve worse!
So why did I just ramble on about how much I love animation? Well, in Fire Emblem Three Houses, there's something a bit off with the animations and the combat feel in general. The animations almost seem rushed, like if you're playing in fast motion, and it's almost as if they lack a certain weight that the previous games had. The particle effects are nice, the movement is smooth, but the hits have almost no impact. On top of this, with the whole massive army visual that some combat scenes play, the animations are almost hilariously lame.
Nice throw!
Is it just me who thinks that this has more impact than this? I mean, there's like no freeze frames, and freeze frames are what make this satisfying. Of all things that I complain about in this video, this might seem like the least important. But to me, it's just an unnecessary step backwards that ends up making the game feel less satisfying than the games before it. And well, that sucks. Now this one is a bit tricky, and I'm going to clarify what I mean by art style. The art style of the characters is perfectly fine for the most part. It's a bit too generic of an anime style for my taste, but Fire Emblem is no stranger to that. And while I would have liked Hidari, the artist who did Shadows of Valencia, to have worked on this game, I'm okay with this artist as well. What I mean by the art style being ugly is the clashing of the cel-shaded cartoon aesthetic of the characters versus the realistic style of the world. Either one is fine, but for the love of God, just stick to one. Characters pop out of the world in an almost extreme way, and they just don't blend in. Just look at this screenshot in particular, where the characters and the food on the table almost seem photoshopped into the world. For example of a great art style on the Switch, just look at Breath of the Wild, with its consistent cel-shaded style making it really nice to look at, and it gets away with the muddy textures that it does have because it's not trying to focus on realism. With Fire Emblem Three Houses, the bad textures look extra bad just because of how much clearer the characters look in every way. Now, I'm obviously not saying that Fire Emblem should copy Breath of the Wild's art style, but what it is stylistically consistent and aware of its limitations. Fire Emblem Three Houses in comparison is a mess. It can't decide what it wants to do, and it ends up looking a lot worse for it. Well, I've rambled on long enough about this, so it's time to wrap this up. Here's a reminder that all of what I just said is really my opinion, and I'm going to buy this game regardless of how shitty I think it looks because it's a Fire Emblem game. And ultimately I love the gameplay, and hopefully the characters and the plot are fun and interesting. Graphics aren't everything. You know, that's been said a billion times before, but it's true. I'm just really disappointed at the lost potential here, especially from a AAA Nintendo game. Fire Emblem has always had a high standard for the consoles that it releases in, and it's such a shame that Three Houses wasn't able to live up to my expectations. So do you think I'm exaggerating? Do you think the game is beautiful? Or do you agree with me? I don't care. Let me know in the comments below. So thanks for watching again, and I guess maybe I'll do a follow-up when the game comes out? I don't know.